Assalamu alaikum. I know this has been a while, but I want to give you a new company update. Some of you remember last year I was changing the name of the company and I went through a lot of different stages of what I wanted to do. And one of them was changing the name from Denmark to Nordic, which I changed back. And if you have been following by emails and newsletters, there have been a period where I wanted to close the website completely. And I feel like I owe everyone who has been following this journey an explanation. I've gone through a lot of personal development, especially in the last 2 years, 2.5 years, maybe even 3. And running this small business has been difficult at times, mostly rewarding, but also when you have a business as a woman, there's a lot of emotional play into how it feels like to run a small business or a company or anything like that. To be completely honest, I didn't feel like that the business was mine, and I didn't feel like I was running it by myself. And when I went through a lot of emotional, personal turmoil in my life, it affected how I felt about the business as well. The business was not what I wanted it to be, and in a certain way, or what would I say, emotional feeling, I was like, if I change the name, it will make me feel better, it will feel like mine again. If I do this, it will start to feel more real again. But I felt like I was just tumbling through a lot of emotional distress in my personal life, and it affected how the business was as well. And at the end, I felt like I just wanted to let it go. I just wanted to get out of it. And I felt a lot of commitments which I could not fulfill because I couldn't really fulfill commitments to myself at that time. So that's why, if some of you remember back at the fall of 2024, I started to announce I was closing my business. But as you can see, it is still here. I'm still running it. I'm still making new products. And it can be confusing and maybe build a bit of a what is she actually doing kind of feeling. So I wanted to explain a little bit why this happened and why I'm still doing what I'm doing even though I wanted to close it. The business itself has always been based on the artistic feel and what I wanted to do. And if you'd asked me since I was small, I always wanted to work with art and design and interior and this type of things. So it all came very natural to me as something that was a part of me and that I could express it, especially after becoming a Muslim, to create something unique and Scandinavian and artistic for the community. So the drive to do that has always been this feeling of creation and being artistic and having this background even from my family. But what happened is that the business became more of a business money, and I ended up being extremely depressed and lonely in running the business. When I moved it from the office, which was the first place, I really loved it. I built it, and then I moved it to a huge storage space, and it had to be like a factory run like this, and it had to be about money, and I had to sell this and I had to do that, and it made me really depressed, to be honest. And it affected me in a very negative way in everything you can say. And if I look back at the time where I was actually happy about the business, it would be back in 2021, where I had my first office, beautifully decorated. It felt like me. It felt like the essence of the business was right, even though it was not big. It felt good, and I felt like I was doing something which I was passionate about. So if I had to turn back to any point, it would be to 2021. I think that was the last time I was really happy about running a small business. And then I moved to a huge storage space to have a lot of frames and to be able to have frames at a reasonable price. Order a lot of frames from Europe to send to you guys. So it became a huge storage, but still it was not in a place where I could have a lot of employees. So I ended up spending a lot of time alone at a huge storage space, and it made me really, really depressed, and it made me sad, and it was not what I wanted, because I started to think more of a, this has to make money, this has to make money, it has to be this. And back then we were trying to take in a lot of new products like hijabs and like jewelry and a lot of things which did not fit the original purpose and the original thing I wanted to do with having this business. And then all of a sudden, because I did not feel good, the sales went down because I couldn't produce or feel the joy about having the business. And then at the end of this, I stopped. And I think this was around 2022. I stopped and I was like, I cannot be here alone. I feel confined. I don't feel any creative flow. I can't do this. So what happened is that I decided to get a full-time job in Copenhagen, to have colleagues again and to start to like feel some type of community and maybe take a little bit control about my life and what was happening. And obviously from me doing a full-time job, the business started to suffer because I wasn't producing new posters, and the sales dropped a lot even when I was doing sales, and it made me more depressed, and it put me off of the business again to a different level where I started to question everything. And even though I worked in Copenhagen and it was a fun environment to work in, it also pushed me a little bit away of the Islamic community, because I started to feel a lot of resentment, not towards Muslim, but like the whole idea of having the business and then having this sales job. And I feel like I was not just failing my customers, I was failing myself, and I was failing my creative flows. And I ended up actually working for this other company as if it was my own business, which took all of my energy, and it took a lot of my everything, and I ended up on a weird path. And after all of that, I went through a divorce, and I ended up moving the business to a smaller storage, which I shared with a friend. And sales keep dropping, and I was not feeling it anymore. And to be honest, I didn't really feel any connection to myself or my creativity or my business. So I tried to rename it and rebrand it to try to get a feel of it again. And it was like a short-term thing, but then not really. And I felt like it was not giving what I wanted it to. It was not fulfilling me still. And I couldn't figure out what I was doing wrong, because in my personal life, I wanted to cut all the ties to the past and have like a restart. So a new name, a new me, and all of those things. And it just didn't work. And when I realized that I was not really fulfilled in anything I was doing, I was like, okay, I will do the rebrand, and I want to quit the full-time job I had. And this was in the beginning of 2024. So renamed the business to Nordic, which didn't stick at all. And then I quit the full-time job I had, and I was like, okay, I will have to restart everything one more time. And I had a few failed attempts at that. And one of them was to do a move to Dubai, which did not work out at all. I stayed there for like 2 weeks, maybe 3. And I was very excited about everything that was happening, and then it didn't work out. And then I didn't know what to do, and I couldn't find myself. And I started to think, oh my God, I cannot handle this business at all. So at the end of the summer, I started to think, okay, maybe I should just close it and give everything up and just start from zero and find myself again. And what I did was that I went on a long personal journey. I went traveling. I went back to Vietnam, where I lived previously. I went to India. I went to Dubai. I went to Morocco. And I went and did a lot of traveling to try to like find myself again. And what happened with all of this journey was that I started to feel confident in myself. I went through a lot of questioning on being a convert and being a Muslim as well. And obviously, since I do Islamic art, this is a huge part of the business. It's also that I'm Muslim. And I started to question everything, every aspect of my life, including hijab, including the religion, including how I felt about anything. And I was like, will I ever be married again? Will I have a family? Am I Muslim? Like everything came from an inside perspective. And alhamdulillah, I did end up finding myself again. And a huge part of that absolutely had to do with meeting someone and getting married again. And me being out of Sweden, and the business being in Sweden was super complicated, but I I ended up moving back to Sweden, and I ended up being like, okay, I have my business. I love doing this. I love creating, and anything to the past should not affect my future from now on. So I moved the storage and I removed the frames because I'm like, I don't have the capacity to have frames now. And I continued to have the business and I started to redo it again. And I'm like, no, this time I want to build it again from scratch where I feel like this is also a part of me. I'm a Scandinavian Muslim. I'm producing Scandinavian Islamic art. This is something which is so dear to me. I'm not gonna let it go, but I want it to feel like me and I want to feel the joy from doing it, because I can also see that when I am producing better work, I have better customers and the experience is different for me and for you guys as well, as to what content I can put out, what I can talk about and everything. So without like going too deep into everything, the journey is still an ongoing journey. I've been doing this for, I think, almost 8 years now. I started in 2017 and now we're in 2025. So that is a long time. That's actually a long time, so mashallah. But for me, it starts here. It starts over again. And I still hope, inshallah, everyone will appreciate that I'm trying to be honest about where I stand. This is not a gigantic company. This is me. I'm running the social media. I'm doing the products and I'm doing the printing and packing from home now. And it's an ongoing journey that I've now started from scratch one more time. And inshallah, I think it will be better as is every time. So thank you for listening and thank you for understanding, and I hope you have a beautiful day.